Second guest is Abu Yusuf. He's a researcher in political thought and international relations, teacher of classic Arabic, Qur'anic studies, and advocates for Islamic revival. My question to Abu Yusuf: the Zionists continue their genocide in Gaza and expansion of the settlements in the West Bank. What do we expect next in the region, and how can we in the UK respond? Thank you.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Al-aqibatu lil-muttaqeen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. To be honest, I haven't prepared any notes. And I'm going to speak really in just reflecting. I know you have a specific question. I just want to take the opportunity to reflect over the last 2 years, and now that we are seeing some sort of ceasefire in effect. God knows for how long. It's really important for us at this 2-year anniversary to take a step back and think about what we have witnessed, which is now termed live stream genocide. That's a new expression that's now probably going to enter the dictionary, live stream genocide. What we have witnessed in the last 2 years, there were a very few people, other than the Palestinians, they knew the reality of Israel all along. But what we have just seen is just that the entire world has woken up to the reality of this brutal occupation that has been that's over 70 years old. It's just that there is a new awareness that exists today. And I want to mention under the theme of unmasking, because I think the last 2 years have unmasked certain realities. Some masks have fallen off, and we are really truly seeing the true nature of certain institutions, certain principles. So-called international community, that so-called liberal world order that was set up under the expression never again after Second World War. We have seen the true reality of so-called the liberal international order headed by the United States of America. United States of America, throughout this entire 2 years, hand in glove with the Zionist occupation, has given carte blanche to actually carry out the genocide. And I was just talking earlier on that the reality of the international system today is down to the whim of a president who is desperate to be recognized as a Nobel Peace Prize. That's probably what's motivating him to put a little bit of pressure. This is the reality of international politics that we've seen today. We've seen the unmasking of the Western liberal ideas of human rights, democracy, freedom of speech, whether at home, whether abroad, whether in the Middle East, whether in Gaza, is buried along the rubbles of the people of Gaza itself. We have witnessed that. We have witnessed how, as the previous speaker has mentioned, how challenging genocide can end you up in prison. We have seen those awful pictures of 70, 80, 90-year-old pensioners, people who are handicapped, being arrested for resisting genocide. We've seen that. So we've seen the unmasking of these so-called liberal values. We've seen the unmasking of the corporate media. The corporate media sits from 7th of October, when they started, the Israeli propaganda was in full swing. Babies being what? Put into the oven, beheading, rape. All of these were debunked later on. Completely debunked later on. So we've seen the corporate media has had a hand in propagating and justifying under the so-called right to defend the genocide. We've seen that. For many of us, this is probably not new. But I want to move on to something more significant. which is the role and the responsibility of those who Islam has mandated to look after the blood and the sanctity and the land of the Muslims. Who are those who are responsible for the protection of the Muslims? These are the regimes, these are the Muslim rulers. They are responsible. The Prophet ﷺ said, Al-Imamu Junnah, the Imam, the leader, he is a shield. Al-Imamu Ra'in, the Imam, he is a shepherd who looks after his flock. But what we have seen in the last 2 years, not just silence, we've seen complicity, we've seen betrayal. Did you not see and witness how, while the genocide is taking place and the children of Gaza are starving, that we saw Muslim countries being a conduit to providing food to the Zionist regime from the UAE via Jordan into Israel. We saw how Egypt continued to supply food. Moreover, we saw Turkey. Turkey was supplying fuel from Azerbaijan and other countries to Israel. So while the genocide is happening and our people are starving and have no fuel, no fire, no electricity, our regimes, rather than standing on the side of the Muslims in Gaza, not only in empty words, but in deed, but on the contrary, they are the ones who were actually supplying, consolidating and supporting the Zionist genocide in our countries. This is something the Muslim world needs to focus on, because those who have the capability of stopping this genocide within 24 hours, like the Muslim regime of Egypt, Jordan, Turkey, these countries, that we have seen that they have completely surrendered the issue of Palestine. Surrendered the issue of Palestine. And now we see that when the Muslims have called out to these regimes to intervene, specifically to send the Muslim armies to intervene in Gaza, and that intervention is not only morally, Islamically obliged, it's also permitted under international law, that we see these regimes, they did not intervene. Now, they talk about having an international stabilization force, and the international stabilization force as part of this ceasefire going forward. And who are going to be the soldiers? Who are going to be the armies that's going to go there to Gaza to bring about so-called peace and to demilitarize Gaza? It's going to be the armies, potentially from Turkey, from Qatar, from Egypt. So the Muslim armies, they're not used to defend the honor and the dignity and the blood of the Muslims, but rather they're used as a tool by the imperialist, by the colonialist, for their own agenda. This is a really important fact that the Muslims need to understand. And as I was saying earlier on, we've seen ceasefires come and go. Yes, we are happy the people of Gaza, they're having an opportunity to breathe, opportunity to go back to their homes. But we've seen ceasefires come and go. The underlying problem that we see today is the issue of occupation. Occupation, not only the lands which were occupied from 67, we're talking about historical Palestine. Because this entity, this Zionist entity, is a foreign implant into the Middle East in order for the colonialist countries, such as Britain and France in the past, to maintain their hegemony. And now that mantle has been taken over by the United States of America. The underlying issue here today, brothers and sisters, and Muslims who are listening to me, that until the Muslims liberate capitals of Amman and Cairo and Damascus and Riyadh and Islamabad, we are not going to liberate Al-Quds. We are not going to liberate Al-Quds unless we liberate our lands first from the tyrannical regimes and systems which maintain the occupation, support the occupation. And now they talk about the two-state solution. Two-state solution is like a dead body. It's often resuscitated from the morgue and brought out just to say to the people, we've got a solution. And now everyone's talking about two-state solution. There's no such thing as a two-state solution. The Zionist occupation, they don't believe in the two-state solution. Coming back to your question, what is the meaning of a two-state solution? When you have 700,000 settlers who are armed to the teeth, who are just an extension of the IDF, what kind of state are you going to have? What kind of state are you going to have? Where Gaza today is separated from West Bank. And even in Gaza, think about it, they want to bring the war criminal of Baghdad, Tony Blair, to be the viceroy in Gaza on behalf of the war criminal of Tel Aviv. This is the colonial mentality that these Western governments and policy thinkers they have towards the Muslim world still. They still think that Muslim world is subject to colonization, and they still think in those terms. So the issue of a two-state solution, the issue of authority and sovereignty, these are just empty words to pacify the population and the public opinion in the world. So the politicians, they can say to the constituency, we are doing something. We're going to bring about peace, and they bring out this two-state solution in order to pacify. In reality, there is no two-state solution. The reality is that this Zionist occupation, its only purpose is domination. Its only purpose is that it needs to dominate the entire region. It doesn't believe in the idea of a fixed border. It doesn't believe in the idea that this is what we're going to call Israel. It believes in the idea of an expansive border. That they feel that they could go into South Lebanon, they can go into Jordan, they can go into the Sinai, they can go into south of Syria. They believe in this. So the idea of a two-state solution with fixed borders, this is a pipe dream. This is not going to happen. The issue is now over 70 years. The two-state solution has been called for. It is not going to happen. It's just used as a political ploy in order to continue the maintenance of the occupation. And finally, I just want to leave with you that what is the solution? Because everyone's talking about a solution. How do we solve this problem? The problem is fundamentally to do with how the entire region has been configured after World War I. We are living through the legacy of colonialism. This Israeli occupation, it came into existence at the same time as the other regimes that were created by the British and the French during the Sykes-Picot. And during that same time, you had the Balfour Declaration. Until we address the issue, the root issue of colonization, which is that this entire area has been colonized, and we have regimes and we have systems whose loyalty is only to their chair, only to their bank account, to their pockets, and to their sponsors either in Washington or France or in London. They have no concern for the interests of their people, for the well-being of their people. The fundamental issue here is that the Muslims in that region, and the Muslims all over, is that we need to go back to Islam. Because it is under the rule of Islam, that we saw relative peace and prosperity in that region. When Umar bin al-Khattab, he conquered Palestine, that he brought peace and prosperity for Jews, Christians and Muslims alike. We saw the same thing during the Crusades, when Salahuddin, he conquered Al-Quds. He did not carry out any massacres. He allowed the Jews and Christians to continue to live. And the period of the Ottoman rule is there on record, where Muslims, Jews and Christians, they lived in relative peace and prosperity as communities under the rule of Islam. And it's under the rule of Islam only in that region people of all faiths and none will be prosperous again. And this is our vision for that region.